we really didn't look the part the first half.
No.
The only reason we went into halftime, as we've already said, with a tie was what some people, mainly myself, think was a questionable PK. So if you consider the fact that had that PK not happened, it made sense for us to be losing at that point.
I think the consensus between a lot of people was that there's going to be some rotation. I mean, Darwin's on facing a suspension.
Sure.
Opara got a knock. Ozzy leads the team in minutes, and everyone's worried he's going to break.
Right,
But 7. I mean, I think. But you look at the lineup, and I'm kind of like, okay, defense, I get it. Opara, Dotson, I would have expected to start in maybe at his favorite defensive midfield position, but the midfield baffled me. The Martin, Schuler, Olem.
Yeah,
Olem. No, Olem could start.
But he's a veteran guy.
Yeah. But then you look at the attack. Finley, like always, Molino has earned a starting spot. Toy has kind of given a chance. But yeah, Schuler and Martin starting was where I had the problem.
Okay, that was going to be my question. You answered it. What was your biggest surprise about the lineup? So that's a good point.
Gregus, I thought, could start the game.
But I could see Olem starting this game because he's a veteran and he gives some guys some rest. That's fine.
I saw him taking over for Ozzy.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's cool. But you get Schuler in there and you get Martin. It's like, what are you doing?
I touched on it. It's tough, when you make this, 7 swaps to have the cohesiveness or to maintain it. And you're just, it's like you're rolling a big dice, and throwing it out there and see what falls.
Especially when, Martin really hasn't played a lot. And then you have Schuler who lost his starting job. So you have these players who not only haven't played, they haven't played with each other.
That's right.
And they're going to be in a 4-3-3, which we don't play very much. And it's just kind of like, what the heck? So this brings us to the discussion of U.S. Open Cup and the league. It's like, how do you prioritize?
Well, maybe couldn't you have said, well, we need to get some fresh legs out there. We need to do some kind of a rotation. But instead of going wholesale as they did against Montreal, couldn't you have split that up against, say, an Eastern Conference opponent on the road? Maybe we can touch on the reasons what Keith was thinking why he did this. But couldn't you split it up between that game last night and a U.S. Open Cup match against a USL Championship side?
I mean, I would think so. I would think, Griffin, you mentioned it. Gregush, I would have started him. I think, I don't care which one you put in, whether it's Schuler or Martin. I would have started Gregush. From there, personally, I think, maybe Miggy was burned out, but who cares if he only plays a half? Let him get a half in. I can understand Darwin with his yellow card, so that makes sense. Angelo, Mason probably deserved a start. I personally left him out of our texts as far as my the one player that I didn't think necessarily needed to be on the field. Molino definitely deserved a start. So I don't know. I just felt like it was a really, really weird lineup. I think you could have split it up. I think, in terms of the play, of course, we've discussed how we want us to do well in U.S. Open Cup. It's our one opportunity to get, for sure, I think, a solid chance at a trophy this season. So I get the wanting to emphasize that, but the playoff picture for me was more important. And I said this on Twitter from my own account, I think this was. For me, people don't take U.S. Open Cup seriously in Major League Soccer.
Nor do the fans.
That's right.
And so if you want to be taken seriously as an MLS team, you be competitive in the playoffs. You win the U.S. Open Cup, no one remembers you until the U.S. Open Cup comes around.
That's right.
if you're not talking U.S. Open Cup, no one cares.
That is funny you say that. I mean, as closely as I've been following the MLS over the last, well, obviously 2 years, but 3 years, I honestly forgot that Houston had won last year's version.
Yeah.
Until, of course, we played Houston.
Yeah.
But.
I mean, it's one of those things where if you want to be taken seriously in Major League Soccer, you have to be competitive in Major League Soccer.
Yeah.
No one gives a shit about the U.S. Open Cup.
And going
that's
back
sad,
to
but it is.
Houston winning it, was Houston even a playoff team last year?
I don't know.
I think they
don't
finished
remember.
just below. I could be wrong, but if they were a playoff team, they didn't make it far.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily like the U.S. Open Cup winner coincides with a team that is going to be competitive for the MLS Cup.
Exactly.
Right. So it shows that teams are very inconsistent in the league for taking the Cup seriously.
And then just Houston finished just above Minnesota in 9th last year.
Okay. So... Oh, and then a harsh reminder that we finished 10th.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, that's right.
Where we spent most of the season,
Yeah.
actually. We've talked about it. But
And so you think about that and you say, well, okay, U.S. Open Cup is being taken seriously by 3 teams. Atlanta, because they just want to win everything.
That's right.
Because they're douchebags. LAFC, because they're a little bit newer than Atlanta and Minnesota, so they want to win something. And Minnesota, because that's the most likely opportunity we have to win something.
a trophy. It's
win
some
trophy.
silverware,
So-
which...
It's like you see this whole concept of you need to. No one who is anything in Major League Soccer cares about U.S. Open Cup.
No.
Hopefully that changes.
But maybe this might be about Heath a little bit too. Heath comes from the European side, and winning those trophies.
He understands those trophies.
He understands what those trophies mean on the European side. And you're going, well, maybe he wants this trophy because he thinks, well, this is something
Yeah,
we should
and
get. But in
it's
Major
very
League
possible.
Soccer, we don't give a shit right now.
Yeah,
we
right.
don't.
And somebody mentioned that on Twitter last night, and I think that was I responded to that, was that Americans don't understand that concept of
No.
those cups.
No.
And so it's just not a big thing right now. And I completely agree. Now, on the other side, flip side of that coin is Adrian Heath also knows he's on a hot seat. Whether or
that's
not
right.
anyone else thinks he's on a hot seat, he's on a hot seat. So this season, he needs to do something. Now, however, when you're sitting in 5th place, you have 3 teams below you within 3 points of you. If you're on a hot seat, I get you want U.S. Open Cup because maybe you're English, you understand the FA Cup, you understand the English Cup to a lesser extent. But make the fucking playoffs.
That's exactly right.
And if you lose, and so I brought this up to you guys on our text, if we would have lost last night, and San Jose would have won, and Houston would have won, we'd have been in 7th.
Yeah, that's right.
And San Jose
And-
did win last
Yes.
night.
And
that,
had
like
we...
you said, that speaks to the openness of the West,
Exactly.
being within a point between 3 different places.
Yep. And then we go into New Mexico with fresh legs. Great, we win. Say we win it.
Yeah.
But now those fresh legs are tired for FCD, who is probably our biggest challenge in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And if we lose there, we're out of the playoffs. So obviously, retrospect, everything pretty much worked out.
It did.
I mean, I guess that could be one argument for a shakeup is the fact that they're in a stretch of 6 games. They're right in the middle of it. They're going into their 3rd game of 6 games in 22 days.
Right.
So, I mean, maybe you got to pick your spots. And I think
Yeah.
we can, if we want to simplify it, we could all agree that it was a bigger shakeup than.
It was much bigger, yeah.
But you pick your spot against New Mexico, I think. You don't pick your spot against Montreal.
And I said this in our text. There isn't a player in our roster that can't beat New Mexico.
Yeah.
What the lineup against Montreal would have been a great lineup.
Exactly.
Exactly right.
So
Exactly right.
that's a great question.
And
is what is the lineup against? New
Well, it's
Mexico
going to be.
United
I think it's going to be
look
full
like?
bore.
Yeah, I think they're going to go
You don't think
all
it's going
out.
to look like this?
Oh no, I think it's
Wow.
going to be a full bore, and it's going to be one of those situations where it could be a trap game.
Yeah.
And we could get embarrassed because we're going to go out with a full roster, and we better damn well look like we have a full roster.
And they've already beaten an MLS team.
Exactly.
So
Two.
it's-
They've
Oh, two.
run up on
Okay,
two.
so
It's,
Dallas and Colorado.
Dallas and
Colorado,
and Dallas in that order.
Now, of course, Colorado, you can argue whether that's an MLS team or not, but
Yeah.
Well,
In
Sorry.
recent weeks.
kind of like
Sorry,
Cincinnati.
Raptors.
I mean, we
Yeah.
argued about that. So, but to bring this all back, I think that there were obvious things that decisions Heath made yesterday about the lineup that we're never going to find out about.
And that's the problem.
And
Is
that's-
you can rack your brain.
You can
because
rack your
we
brain all
won
you
the
want.
game.
Exactly.
So Heath is never going to be like,
Yeah.
"Well, I didn't think that was going to happen."
Exactly. Right.
So, and especially because he is on the hot seat. If anything, he's going to take any credit where he can get it.
Do you think he went back after the game and went into the bathroom by himself and like looked in the mirror and said, "I can't believe that freaking worked. I can't believe that worked." I mean, I don't get it.
I think that would have been on the plane ride
plane
back.
back, yeah.
He's probably like, holy shit, that actually worked.
It was a huge win. I think because of that, going into it. But to me, it feels a little bit. Could they replicate that success against another opponent on
With
the road?
that lineup?
Yes,
No.
with that.
There's no way.
And
There's
maybe
no
it
way.
felt a little fluky. I mean, don't get me wrong. Going down the stretch versus Montreal, they sustained some pressure.
Yeah.
They handled that well. Obviously they had a game.
Could it work
plan.
against Cincinnati?
Oh,
Probably.
yeah. I mean, and the thing is, in my opinion, the Eastern Conference is weaker.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that works against an Eastern Conference aside from Atlanta, aside from DC and Philly.
But with how good Montreal is somehow kind of flying under the radar with their success, they still have given up, after this game, 33 goals. I think they came in
34.
34.
Yeah.
So they give up a lot of goals. And Jamie Watson said when he was going through like their month-by-month breakdown of their success, they really are like 3-3, 2-2, 2-1-2.
Yeah.
They were really consistent of giving up points where they probably shouldn't have, and winning games they probably shouldn't have either.
This is kind of maybe Montreal is like the anti-San Jose, at least over the last couple years, because I think this was the third meeting between Minnesota and Montreal, and all three were victories for Minnesota.
And I mean, one was the incredible Abu Denladi. I think it was extra time or very
Super
end
late
of the game.
after Molino tied it up with a penalty, and
and I think that was a 3-2.
Yeah, that was 3-2 as well. And I think the other one was, 1-0, 2-0?
Yeah.
The first, was 1-0, 2-0.
And I think the last thing I want to bring up is just, maybe, they were on the road after a nice start to the season. They're 3 wins, 6 losses. They hadn't had a draw on the road, so maybe they were thinking, okay, we'll hunker down, we'll play defense, and getting a draw on the road would be okay. But to put it in perspective, I mean, how tough it is to win on the road in MLS. The Dynamo went into Cincinnati yesterday and lost 3-2.
Yeah.
And I think that says it all, is the fact that the MLS statistically is insane when it comes to results at home versus on the road.
There's nothing
more than
like
any
it.
other league.
There's nothing like it.
And so I think maybe there was a chance that Heath and the staff was just thinking, no matter what lineup we put out here, we're on the road. Who knows what's going to happen?
Exactly.
Because we lost on the road to LA Galaxy without Ibrahimovic. So who knows what lineup is going to affect this result on the road when you know that statistically speaking, no matter how good you are, you could lose 3-0 to FC Cincinnati on the road. So maybe he just steered into the skid and was like, we got a game coming up, people are tired, it's on the road, we could start Darwin, Angelo, Mickey, everyone, and still lose.
Exactly.
Why not have an excuse
Exactly.
for losing the game?
That's right.
And maybe just then having the Cup in Dallas coming up and not having to worry about these issues.
Yeah.
So who knows? That's the thing. We'll
we
never
never know. We'll never know.
So when it comes to rotation, then, I mean, what do we do for New Mexico? Because, in my opinion, we still don't want to put a full squad in because we have FC Dallas.
In 3 days after. On
3 days
Saturday,
after.
It's, so the U.S. Open Cup quarterfinal is
let's see,
semifinal, sorry.
Right now, they are a point behind us. Seattle is only 2 points ahead of us, so a win against FC Dallas
That's right.
creates space below us and could potentially put us above Seattle. It's like, I don't think you want to do a full squad against
I
New
don't
Mexico.
think they do. I think against New Mexico, I think what they end up doing is they put some starters back in, but they don't play a full squad. I don't think they do. I think you can.
Do you think you play Toy and Molino again?
Probably.
And then maybe throw in Miggy?
Yeah.
Or gas, or I'm sorry. Yeah.
Get Dotson back in. Maybe?
I think you need Dotson
think, yeah.
back in there. Yeah.
I mean, I would almost think maybe you want to